Coming up on this episode of 419 by Design, we're getting a backstage look at how to put together a guitar with Reverend Guitars. So come along with us as we find out how they build these internationally beloved instruments right here in Toledo, Ohio.
We're standing in the room here with probably 500 or so electric guitars, which is awesome. Dream come true, right?
All that coming up on this episode of 419 by Design. Reverend Guitars was founded in 1997 by Michigan guitar builder Joe Naylor. The company has a great reputation for quality and tone, and is widely thought of as a guitar player's guitar. Soon after, the company was purchased by Reverend employee Ken Haas and his wife Penny. And not long after, they moved the operations from Michigan to Toledo, Ohio. Reverend has maintained an international reputation for great quality and sound, and boasts a long list of celebrity endorsees. But through all the praise and success, Ken Haas says it comes down to one thing: the quality of the people he hires.
And as time went on and we started growing the brand, we started bringing in people, and we got kind of lucky in a sense that the positions that we needed filled, we kind of knew people that knew what they were doing. Chris was the first major one, and Chris was a warehouse manager here in Toledo for a company that moved to Chicago, and he didn't want to move, and he stayed, and he needed a job, and he had this. Not only was he a friend of ours and plays bass in my band, but he had the exact skill set we were looking for. So we brought in Chris. We are standing in our receiving warehouse, and we're standing in the room here with probably 500 or so electric guitars, which is awesome. Dream come true, right? Am I right? And so here's how the process goes. Reverend was founded by a gentleman in the Detroit area, a guy named Joe Naylor, who still does all of the design work on all of our guitars. And he draws the guitars out by hand, and then they go into sort of a CAD design thing, and then the guitars are manufactured for us by a small factory in Korea called Mir Music. And they build for us and a few other smaller brands. And then the guitars come here from Korea, and they go through a whole process here in Toledo, Ohio. And then from Toledo, they go back out to artists and dealers and distributors all over the world. And so what you see in this warehouse is how the guitars show up to us from Korea. And this is sort of step one, is getting them in here, getting them serial numbered and cataloged and matched up with invoices and ready to go. And then that is where Chris sort of takes control of the day-to-day responsibility of the instruments.
It all starts here. We got 2 inspection stations for when the guitars come in here from Korea. We double check, make sure the pickups are the correct pickups in the guitar, correct pick guards, any kind of flaw that might happen because they're on a month-long boat ride through and over the ocean to us. So things can happen. So we check it out over here first, and then after that, it goes on the shelves over here where it goes in for the setup. Okay, this is the opening steps of the whole process here. This shelf right here. Bottom 2 shelves are all empty boxes. They're either being worked on currently or they're set up ready to go, just ready to be put away. On this top shelf are guitars that are ready to be worked on. Match up the invoice with the guitars and put them up here, where we go over to these 2 gentlemen for the next preset. Okay, after it gets off the shelf, it goes to these 2 gentlemen, Kelsey and John over there, where they do the initial pre-setup, where they check every screw, every nut, and they tighten it down. If the screw is stripped, we repair it over here to make sure it goes out flawlessly here. And then they also do they spray the pots, make sure the pots work and all the electronic works. And then they hand it off to the next job.
Hi, my name's John Zenz. I would describe myself as a Reverend henchman, kind of jack of all trades, do pre-setups, package pickups, kind of help out wherever I need to be. Right now I'm doing preset on this, the new HPP. Basically, get them from the box, straight from the factory, and we go through, tighten all the screws, take the plastics off the pickups, set the string lengths, make sure everything's good for our setup guys before they get it, so they can just set it up and get it out the door.
All right, my name is Kelsey Borkowski. I'm one of the pre-setup techs here, Reverend, with John Zenz over here. I'm working on a decision base and just getting everything ready to go for our setup techs, making sure all the screws are tight, peeling the plastic off the pickups, making sure the instrument has strings on it, lubricating all the pots, making sure nothing's scratchy and everything functions correctly. So I'm working on the headstock of the instrument right now, making sure all of the tuning machines are fastened down, everything's aligned properly and tight, and then I will move on to the nut of the instrument, making sure there's no burrs or sharp edges that you can catch your hand on and cause any issues there. And we'll get some strings on the instrument and test it out and make sure everything functions. We pass it off to the setup techs, and that's what we do.
Coming up after the break, we'll continue on with our backstage pass at Reverend Guitars. Welcome back to 419 by Design as we follow along and build a guitar with Reverend Guitars.
When the sales started becoming overwhelming for me, I brought in Zach Ward to be our sales manager, and he had sales experience and was a friend of ours. And then it's just sort of blossomed from there. People that we know looking for work and us needing somebody to sort of fill that niche, and it's worked out for us pretty well up to this point.
This is after Kelsey and John do the pre-setups. They face them out here, they put the invoice with the guitars, where Doug and Brian and Zach will then take them to their workstations and do the final setup, which, as you can see, these are not signed yet. Okay, here we are at Doug's bench. This is the final setup process right here, where we file the nuts to make sure everything's intonated. We adjust the bridge, adjust the truss rod, and do all the final setup process.
The Rev Crew, it's an eclectic mix. The first person that Penny and I hired when we started this company in 2010, after we took it over from Joe Naylor, was Zach Green, who was Joe's head tech for many years. Joe hired and trained him starting in 1998, and he had worked for Reverend setting up guitars for 12 years up to 2010. And when we started out, it was just me and Zach and Penny.
Hey, I'm Zach Green, and I've been here since the beginning of time, when we started in a little garage unit behind a Christian bookstore next to a bike store. And that seems like a million years ago, and going strong, bigger than ever. I don't know, I guess I'm kind of like the, I don't know, I do a little bit of everything when it comes to guitars around here. Mostly it's setups, because there's a lot of guitars to set up. So mostly my day is just setting up guitars, but every now and then I'll have to put a guitar back together that's either been run over by a truck or fell out of a building or whatever. Put pickups in a guitar, you know, do some custom routing, but mostly just your typical setup. Work on that customer's guitar. I put these two rail hammers in here, and now comes the setup. I did all the wiring just a little bit ago, and we're just gonna finish it up, put a setup on it. Setup is just taking an instrument that's just basically a collection of parts, and actually getting it to play like an instrument. You know, you're adjusting the neck for the right relief, which is basically the amount of bow in the neck. There's preferences, but usually there's a set standard you go to. Adjusting the nut slots to the height to where it's easy to play. From there, we'll go to adjusting the bridge, setting the action, which is the how far the strings are away from the frets. Of course, the closer they are, the easier it is to play, but you're also riding on the razor's edge of now they're going to start buzzing. So there's a standard that you want to fall within. Everything's measurements that Joe Naylor came up with back in the day. We still use those same measurements. and then you set that calibration. The calibration is always the last thing you do. And then from there, you just take it for a test drive, make sure everything works, and then sign the name on it, sign it off, put the serial number on it, up on the rack, and off to the owner.
Here's the final step of the whole process, the cleanup bench, where we have the buffer wheel over there and the various case candy, the care booklet. Here we have our setup card, serial number and the register web address, and also the checklist that we do during the setup process. And then they take the invoice and they put it on the clipboard here where it says completed. And that's where they go on this side, where we box them up and ship them.
Yeah, well, everybody, it's cool. I mean, everybody that works here loves guitars, and everybody that works here plays in bands, and we're all active in this sort of life, you know? And I mean, it is sort of the ultimate thing. I mean, if you don't feel like your job is a job, right? If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, and all this stuff that your dad says. But I mean, it's true, and we just like doing what we do. And I think the crew that we've put in the building, both on the front of the house and the back of the house, you know, they found us, really, right? I mean, yeah, we knew some of these guys, but we didn't always know who was looking for work or whatever. But then when, you know, it just, yes, we've been very, very fortunate with the crew that we have here.